Welcome to Season 2's Christmas special of the Filmmaker Film Watcher podcast. I'm filmmaker Richard Di Gregorio.
And I'm Greg Ralph, the Film Watcher.
And we just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
And a Happy New Year.
So this episode we're going to be talking about, obviously, 3 Christmas-themed films.
As we have done in past seasons.
That's
well,
right.
Last season.
The first film we're going to be looking at is the 2003 film Elf.
Followed by the 1954 classic White Christmas.
And thirdly, we're going to go modern in the 2015 film Krampus.
Oh gosh, that was only last year, you know that, right?
I know. So, first of all, let's look at Elf. Take it away, Greg.
So, Elf. An infant boy crawls into Santa's bag at an orphanage and ends up at the North Pole. The elves name him Buddy, based on his brand of nappies, and he's adopted by a senior elf, played dryly by the veteran comic Bob Newhart. Buddy grows up to be the tallest ever elf, played by Will Ferrell, infused with Christmas spirit and a deep innocence, and not realising that he was adopted from the human world. Eventually, Santa tells Buddy that his father is a publishing executive in New York, who never knew of his son's existence. So Buddy goes off in search of his roots, bringing his childlike spirit to the Big Apple, with mixed success but also finding love and acceptance. A lot of the joy in this 2003 film directed by the actor Jon Favreau comes from Will Ferrell's performance as Buddy. Interestingly, the part almost went to Jim Carrey, which would have been a very, very different performance. And Ferrell is supported by a wonderful cast. At the North Pole, Ed Asner as Santa and Bob Newhart. And in New York, Mary Steenburgen, Zoe Deschanel, Amos Sedaris, and a cameo from Peter Dinklage from Game of Thrones as a short person who is definitely not an elf. So that's kind of the gist of it. Ricardo, what did you think?
Look, I love Christmas time.
Well, that's lucky.
Yeah, it is, and I sort of it takes these sort of movies and Christmas movies to really get you in the spirit of Christmas.
No, you hadn't seen it before, had
I'd
you?
never seen this before.
Whereas I had, yeah.
I was a bit disappointed by this film, and I was really looking forward to it too. I mean, I really like Will Ferrell, and I have a laugh at a lot of his movies. You know, I loved him in Zoolander, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby. I like his movies. I actually do get into them. But this just left me feeling just a bit meh.
A bit of an elf hazard, was it?
Yeah, look. There's a few things I really liked about it. Okay, I love the start. Okay, and I love the animated characters in the North Pole.
Yes.
I liked all that stuff. I thought they were great. I loved the elves and the whole setup to the story. But look, the real problem, okay, that I have with it is that Will Ferrell goes nowhere emotionally, character-wise, in this film. He was so annoying and just never grew as the film went on.
See, I don't think this is a great film. I think there is a weak link, but I think I have a different opinion to what it is. I think it's James Caan. James Caan as the long-lost father, to me, was flat.
Very flat.
As the centre of the quest of Buddy, you know, off on this journey to find his family and where he came from and so on, and where he belongs, he finds James Caan, and James Caan's performance, I thought, was pretty much one note.
I think the whole lost father-son story joke, which is a joke of the film, went on way too long. Okay?
And you actually found out nothing about the mother, really. You're told the mother has died. Obviously, she's still very important to the James Caan character.
Yeah.
But you get no sense of who she is, no backstory, no what happened to her. It kind of just is.
And I think James Caan and Mary Steenburgen, look, I think he's a bit boring, but I think she's fine. But she's always the same sort of in a lot of movies, and she's always enjoyable to watch.
I like Mary Steenburgen, yeah.
But I didn't believe like the end at all. Like
I got a bit bored with the struggling with the sleigh bit. I like the bit about everyone's favourite gifts being in Santa's book and the boy reading those out. But I agree. I thought the climax was a bit anticlimactic.
Sure. So James Caan has to give up his job to prove he's a good dad.
And
is that great or what?
Well, really, what shifted him? You know,
yeah, what did it exactly? And even Zoe Deschanel, who I really love, she's great, and she looks amazing on screen, and she's really wasted.
And I like the duet between them in the bathroom. You know, the Baby It's Cold Outside. I like that.
Oh, goodness me!
Really?
Oh my!
You don't like musicals.
Okay. No. Okay. that character is a tacked on, I don't know what she's doing there and what she sees in this absolute lunatic of a guy who never changes. He's a lunatic all the way through the movie, and then they go on a date. She's looking at him like he's a weirdo for most of it, and then they suddenly go on a date, and suddenly they're kissing by the end of it, and suddenly she's over in the North Pole at the end, and she's with him. I don't know. I don't see what she would see in him.
I think the implication was that, you know, she'd obviously been burnt somehow in the past, and so someone
really you got that out of it?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. Because on their first meeting, she was very kind of like closed off. So I think that's a fair assumption.
I love it. You're having to really figure out your own backstory for this character.
Obviously, just create your own adventure.
Create your own adventure backstory. Really, it was just
I think it was his innocence and, you know, his innocence that really touched her. But you're right. There's so much missing here.
A lot. I mean, look, there was a few laugh out loud funny moments. I thought Peter Dinklage's character was great, and I
wanted a bit more of that, actually.
Yeah. But in the scene when he's talking about in the meeting, that meeting section was quite funny, and when they had that fight, I felt that had me laughing out loud because I like Will Ferrell as a comedian. I
I'm not crazy about him. My favourite film of his is Stranger Than Fiction.
Oh yeah, but that's more dramatic.
I know, but it's also a much more interesting story.
Yeah. No, I can get into a Step Brothers Will Ferrell, a Zoolander Will Ferrell, semi-pro Will Ferrell. I can get into Will Ferrell, but this here, the fact that he just went nowhere lost me a bit through the movie. I mean, look, some of it was okay and enjoyable, but seriously, it did. But one thing it didn't do, though, and this is what I was getting back to with the Christmassy, me liking Christmas, but this did not give me that Christmassy feeling that I long for. And that says a lot, I think. It didn't make me feel like, Christmas is here.
This is the second time I've seen this film. So the first time was probably around the time it came out, you know, into the home video market. And I remembered liking it more than I think I did on the second time around. And I think it's because I went with the flow, and because I love Bob Newhart, you know, from the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, he's great.
He's just beautifully dry in that part.
I
think Ed Asner was like a safe choice as Santa, but not a lot that he really did with the part.
No. In fact, that could have been anybody, really.
Anyone with a certain age and grey hair and beard and so on. Yeah, absolutely. But I felt like a lot of boxes were being ticked. So when you first meet James Caan, he's Scrooge because he's telling the little old nun that he's going to have to take away the books that the children love. It was just a bit too... Yeah, so we'll do the Scrooge bit and we'll do the innocence bit and the joy, which I enjoyed.
Yeah.
We'll do the love interest, we'll do the father-son thing, and we'll turn it around. I actually did like Mary Steenburgen, and yes, she often does the same kind of part, but it worked here. You know,
yeah, well, she's always
she was grounded. She didn't have a lot to do, but she was grounded. You kind of wondered how she ended up with the James Caan character. I couldn't see them as a couple.
There's a few moments in the movie, like in the mall, when he outs a Santa for not being real.
Yes.
Which just didn't really make me laugh at all. In fact, for a kid's film, I thought it was quite irresponsible.
I liked the bit where he made the rocking horse out of the bookcase.
Okay, yeah, those bits were okay as well. Yeah,
but it's touches, yeah.
There were moments where I just went, oh, okay, it was enjoyable. But seriously, I was looking at my clock a bit by the end of it, going, oh God, end please. You know, okay, yes, Santa's come, and he's going, oh God, and then they suddenly break out into songs. Zoe Deschanel sings a song, a carol, and everybody starts singing the carol, and
the Spirit of Christmas helps things happen.
Oh, please.
So you're not a fan?
I wasn't a massive fan of Elf, and it was disappointing because I really was looking forward to it, you know. But I think I'm in the minority here. I think there's a lot of people who really love this movie.
I know.
And I think it's one of their great Christmas films.
I thought I did, but I just... You know, it's been turned into a Broadway musical.
Has it?
Yeah.
Well, it might work as a Broadway musical. I just, nah.
Okay, so out of 10... let me guess. 9.5?
No, it's actually... I'm going to give this a 4 out of 10.
A 4?
Yeah.
You really didn't like this.
I didn't. It's not that I really didn't like it.
You didn't hate it, but you really didn't like it.
No, I don't think I'll watch it again as a Christmas film. I don't think I will.
I think I will, because one of my sons really loves this film. So I'll watch it with him and have that enjoyment. But for me, I think I'm a 6.
Okay.
And so we move from the 21st century to the mid-20th century with White Christmas. And Ricardo, take us into that world.
Okay, White Christmas. The story opens Christmas Eve 1944 with World War II soldiers trying to keep their spirits up. Captain Bob Wallace, Bing Crosby, and Private Phil Davis, Danny Kaye, perform for their fellow soldiers. After Phil saves Bob's life from a tumbling brick wall after an explosion, they decide to form a song and dance act and become huge post-war. Phil, a matchmaker, would really like to see Bob find a girl, so he introduces him to sisters Betty, Rosemary Clooney, and Judy, Vera Ellen, also performers who do a great song and dance act. Upon them all travelling to Vermont together, they discover their old general from the war, General Waverley, is the lodge owner, down on his luck due to the absence of snow at his ski lodge. Well, to help out the general, they all stage a surprise review at the lodge to aid him. Of course, there is a love story between Bob and Betty which goes back and forth, and many great song and dance routines to lighten it all up, including the classic song, I'm Dreaming of a White Christmas.
There goes that copyright.
There you go. Released in 1954 and directed by Michael Curtiz, White Christmas is a Christmas film that is surprisingly not about Christmas at all. What did you think, Greg?
Well, I think this is a hard film to have an opinion about in some ways. Like I said a little while ago about Picnic at Hanging Rock, it's so iconic that to kind of see the film as a film rather than this thing...
I know.
Is difficult. And I watched this, in fact, last Christmas for the first time in decades, so it was fairly fresh. I like it. I don't love it. I know some people love it, and there are probably people who are going, oh, what's he saying? Because, you know, it's a beloved film, but... Yeah, I don't know about this. I was really struck this time that Betty is actually quite a grumpy character.
Oh, she is. She's very dire throughout the whole film. She's
She sparks up for a while when they're in love, and she sparks up at the end when they're in love again.
Yeah.
But she starts off being, you know, quite rude to the Bing Crosby character, and they start badly. I think that's meant to be kind of, you know, the tension between them, but it's kind of like... oh, she's gone a bit deep. And then they're really nice to the sisters and it warms up a bit. And then on the word of, you know, the local busybody at the Vermont ski lodge,
yes,
she believes her opinion of the Bing Crosby character is totally transformed. And so she's very bad about that. She gets... you know,
she won't even talk to him
she gets
about
confirmation from other people. She thinks she does at least, but she doesn't talk to him. She kind of nicks
just
off
leaves.
to New York. Yeah, leaves them all, you know, in the lurch, and then almost gets right again. And then someone turns up from the story that she believes, and she thinks it's true again. And then she has to change her part when she sees him sing a song on TV, and it's kind of like, oh, gee, maybe you should move on, Bing.
Yeah.
And I like Rosemary Clooney. I love her voice.
Oh, she's got
I
a
love her
beautiful
persona.
voice.
But you stand back and look at the story and you think, oh, Betty.
Yeah, she is. But I think the general also, I mean, his character as well. I mean, in terms of the age differences, apparently Bing Crosby was the same age as the general.
In fact, he was a few months older.
A few months older.
Yeah.
Yet the general seemed to be this like senior cit who's got nothing more in his life to sort of live for. But since when is a massive failure being the owner of a ski lodge?
Yeah, although the general bits actually worked for me. So when they throw a surprise party and all his men come marching out to recognise him, I am moved by that.
Yeah, I was moved by that as well. I was moved at the very beginning as well, because you really got to see with the general when he said, you know, give them that moment of Christmas Eve,
yes.
you know. So it sets it up beautifully.
He's a decent
there.
guy. He's gruff on the outside, but he's a really decent, caring guy.
And he plays it that way through the film. And I think those moments are, you're right, the best parts of the movie. And at the very end, when they do get the benefit on for him, or the show on for him, and he comes in and sees them, that was beautiful. It was touching. It was very touching.
It's a very strange opening to the film, and I know I've thought this before when I've seen it. So you get the titles, which are very Christmassy, you know,
yes.
red, green and white, and it's amazing how much red, green and white there is through the whole film, you know, what people are wearing and so on. But you get that very Christmassy thing.
Yes.
And then suddenly you're not only on a battlefield in the middle of World War II, but you're also on what looks like a very stage-set version of it, which then becomes a stage set at the end of the film and doesn't look really that different.
Yeah, you're right.
It's quite theatrical and odd. And then in the middle of bombs dropping, you've got Bing Crosby singing, you know, the iconic White Christmas. And
which opens the movie. That's beautiful.
Well, yeah,
that's really lovely.
It's odd, but then I have to think, okay, this is 1954. This is less than a decade after the Second World War.
It is.
People had been through that experience. They'd lost family. I imagine Christmas might have been that much more important to them. So although to me that's a bit odd, I suspect that probably really worked for that audience.
Yeah, I think so too. It's amazing because the dance sequences were, I think, the shining light of this. I think Vera Ellen dance, her tap routines, and her dance numbers were.
So what was your favourite number?
I think, you know what, choreography?
Oh, I was going to say the same.
I think
I didn't think you were going to say that, but me too.
I love it. I love Danny Kaye's beginning, sort of avant-garde sort of. But then when she comes in, it's less razzle-dazzle. You know, I think they were making fun of that sort of dance routine. And then when Vera Ellen comes in and does her tap and just this fast, hugely.
I was looking and thinking, is she actually doing that, or is that a sound effect?
I think she's got to be doing that. Those dance sequences.
Do you know who did the choreography on that movie?
No.
I can't remember who. There's an official choreographer, but there's uncredited choreography from a very young Bob Fosse.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow! No,
and I can believe that. I
can believe that.
I reckon he probably did the choreography number. That felt very Bob Fosse.
Bob Fosse's. I love Bob Fosse films, and I love.
I know.
I love the choreography. So I love Bob Fosse choreography.
I don't think Danny Kaye actually is a dancer per se. A couple of times when he was moving in a couple of the numbers, I sort of thought, oh, that just feels that little bit awkward. And yet he did so well, and particularly in that number outside the nightclub early on. You know, the best things happen when you're dancing. When Danny Kaye and Vera Ellen go outside and they're dancing. I meant to check it. I've got a funny feeling it might even just be one sustained shot. Maybe it's not, but it felt like it. But very long sustained shots where they're dancing around that set and they're doing the zip line down the wharf and he's doing all these movements. I thought, well, you know, he's not doing badly.
Yeah, talking about that, in terms of the setup of those characters and the way it's shot, one thing I really love about these old movies and the way they're shot is they allow the actors to act and perform without even cutting. You know, there's that
very either steady shots or long panning shots. I noticed.
That's right. In one of the opening scenes when you've got Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye backstage in their dressing room, it sort of stays on this one shot, and when they move, the camera just moves toward them, zooms in sort of to a two shot. Moves out to a wide, then sort of follows them around, moves in again, and it just allows them to perform
noticed that a few times.
And act. And you never sort of go, oh, yeah, there's just no cuts there, which is great.
So did you see who the director was, Michael Curtiz? I didn't know who he was. What else he directed?
What has he directed?
Casablanca.
The
original Mildred Pierce.
Oh my goodness.
I made a list of these. Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Actually,
Charge of the Black Brigade.
I didn't know that, 'cause I love
Errol Flynn's Adventures of Robin Hood. The original Walking Dead with Boris Karloff. Like, he did some very, very famous films.
Wow.
And I had no idea that he had actually done this film. I mean, Casablanca and White Christmas, same era, not films I would associate, but same guy behind it.
I think Casablanca's far superior to this. But
they're very different sorts of films.
They are very different films. But still, I did quite enjoy it. And I was moved by it. Yes, the dance numbers were my favourite. When Bing Crosby, he's got an amazing voice, but when he started just singing the songs, when they sort of broke out into song, I was like, oh yeah, okay. Another song. I didn't think the music as a musical was amazing.
No.
And I think that was a problem for me.
It's more that there are some great numbers in it. I like the one that Rosemary Clooney sings in the Carousel Club. Love You Did Me Wrong, I think.
Yeah, that's great. But that's completely linked to her emotion of how she's feeling about leaving. So that works.
And did you recognise one of the dancers in black with her at that stage?
No.
George Maharis, who within a decade won Best Supporting Actor in West Side Story.
Oh, wow.
And did other things since, of course. But there were people kind of popping up in this film. The station, or the conductor rather, when they get on the train early in the film, is, I think it's John Fiedler, who's the voice of Winnie the Pooh from Walt Disney, and others I just recognised, and I thought, there's a lot of good people working on this film.
Yeah.
But we have not yet mentioned the Sisters number.
Which one was that?
Sisters, there were never such devoted sisters.
Oh, yes, the first one they do. The one with the feathers.
Yeah, and then the boys do it.
And then the boys do it. No, that's great. That's wonderful. That's enjoyable.
But
really
that wasn't intended, that scene.
No, I didn't know that.
Oh, it's quite well known that was never part of the story, and yet when you look at it in the film, knowing this, either side there are bits that link into the story, but it was originally just Danny Kaye and Bing Crosby mucking around on set. Aping the girl characters, the women, with their garter belts and so on, and they decided they'd just film it. And they filmed it a number of times. That was the only one they could use because they kept laughing during all the others, and it just wasn't usable. And I love that number. In fact, part of my personal history is a long time ago, in my uni days, I did a version of Sisters with another guy dressed up as nuns, but that's another story. So it has a special place in my heart.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Tell me more, Chris.
Well, there's that great line about, when a certain gentleman comes in from Rome, that was obviously the Pope.
Yes, yeah. there's some other great things as well about the film. I think the screenplay, again, I don't know, that time of cinema, they had great screenplays with great lines where they're witty, you know, and they just...
And you know what? I love Mary Wicks. Mary Wicks, who plays the busybody in the hotel.
Yes.
I like her in anything, you know, from the early 30s all the way through to Sister Act 1 and 2. I just like watching her.
Yeah.
She plays a similar part all the time, but I just like watching her.
Yeah, but I still found Christmassy feel. It did give me a Christmassy feel at the end because it started snowing and everything. But really, it's not really about Christmas at all, this film. Apart from the opening sequence and the end when it starts to snow and they start singing White Christmas again, and that it's Christmas, there's nothing really in it which makes you go, oh, this is a Christmas film. But yet it's like a favourite Christmas film.
Well, because it's got the song in it, and the song is in the title. And it's not the first time White Christmas was in a Bing Crosby film. There was Holiday Inn some years prior with Fred Astaire. So he'd done it, but I think that might actually be a black and white film. This is the one that everyone thinks of and remembers.
Yeah.
And it had a great cast, you know.
It did.
And there was one little moment I just want to mention, right towards the end, in the final concert, when the four main characters on stage singing, I'd like to be back in the army, and then suddenly those dummies come up from the floor of the stage, the large dummies of the civilian life.
They were fantastic.
A really nice touch, and they didn't overdo it either.
No.
And there's a certain irony too, because a lot of the film I sat there rather looking at Vera Ellen thinking, my God, she has no waist. Like, her waist was so thin.
Very thin.
And then suddenly she's this large, character. But a lot of the time I kept looking, thinking, how does she breathe?
So apparently her voice was dubbed.
Yes. The only in the singing.
Yes.
The only place she sang was when they arrive in Vermont and get off the train. They do a little impromptu version of Snow. That was her.
Right.
But the rest of the time, it was either Rosemary Clooney doing her voice, or it was, I think that one was a singer called Trudy Stevens, maybe. I think I got that right. But you know about the soundtrack, the problems they had?
No.
Well, the problem with the soundtrack was that Rosemary Clooney was under license to a rival label, which I think was Decca Records. When the soundtrack was released from the film company, they couldn't use Rosemary Clooney's voice because she was under license to Decca. So somebody else sang her parts on the soundtrack album, and then she released an album through Decca of Christmas songs and White Christmas songs, but the two never met in the soundtracks. Quite odd.
Yeah, that is quite odd.
So anyway, Ricardo, where does this sit on your Christmas scale?
You know, I really liked the movie. I think it was really lovely, and it is a classic film. But you know, it's not in the vein of like last year's "It's a Wonderful Life."
No, well, that was a 10 for both of us.
That was a 10 for both of us. Yeah. Oh, look, I'm going to go a 7 out of 10 for this.
Snap, I'm a 7 as well.
Yeah.
I thought I'd be a bit higher, but it's a long film too. It's 2 hours.
It is.
That pretty much kills Christmas. You sit down and that's it. Have some turkey, go to bed. So it's a little bit long. I don't know quite what I'd cut, but it's a bit long, and I liked some of the musical numbers. I liked bits of the film, but it just didn't quite get there for me.
No, I mean, I'd probably watch it again.
And I probably will too, because it's got that seasonal kind of thing.
It has.
Apologies to people who love this film, and I understand why you would. It just doesn't quite resonate for me.
It is very much a classic amongst people, and people are going to go, no, it's so amazing, and yeah. But no, it's a 7 for me. So the third film we're going to discuss is the 2015 film Krampus.
Which is only last year, but we'll give it a go.
I know, go for it, Greg.
The tagline for this movie is, "You better watch out," but it could just as easily have been, "Don't get on Santa's naughty list." In the film, Max, played by MJ Anthony, is a young adolescent clinging to his belief in Santa. But it's not easy when the extended family comes to visit, not all of them invited. Whether it's his redneck, gun-toting uncle, David Kirkner, waspish great-aunt, Conchata Ferrell from TV show 2.5 Men, his distant parents, Tony Collette and Adam Scott, or his horrific cousins, including one who seems to be channeling the boy from Bad Santa. Everyone in the house seems to be paying lip service to Christmas and family, but oblivious to the true believer amongst them, Max. Only his European grandmother, Krista Stadler, is tuned into Max, but she is keeping a secret from her childhood. When it all gets too much for Max, he tears up his letter to Santa and he throws it out the window. And this act launches the un-Christmassy family into a snowbound, haunted world. A world where they have to come together to have any chance of surviving. So it doesn't sound very Christmassy as such, Ricardo, but what do you reckon?
I really quite enjoyed the movie. though I think it's a film that sort of does and doesn't do what it was intending to do. Sometimes I didn't know whether it was meant to be a comedy or a horror movie.
Yep.
Okay, and I think sometimes it was trying to sort of be the Gremlins of 2015 of like today's age.
I think there's a lot of echoes of Gremlins and Poltergeist in this film, actually.
Yeah. But I don't think it hits those marks at all in the movie. But I still think it's quite an enjoyable ride.
And neither of us had seen this film before, had we?
No, I'd never seen it. I'd never heard of it until we brought it up on this one here.
Well, someone at work told me about it and said that they really loved this film, so I thought, okay, let's do something that we're not familiar with.
It's got a great cast.
Yes.
I think everybody.
I always love watching Tony Collette.
Oh, she's always good.
Yeah.
But I think everybody is quite serviceable in it. I don't think there's a bad performance.
I think
there.
Max is a really good performance from the boy. Yeah.
I think so too. But I still think even from the overboard slow-mo opening of the Christmas shopping.
Overboard. See, I loved it.
No,
I was delighted from the start. I know you've seen that stuff before about Christmas is not really very Christmassy and people aren't necessarily nice to each other and go ballistic in sales.
That goes way overboard.
Yeah, but it is an over the top film, and that's fine. I was delighted from the start. I had problems as the film went on, particularly at the end. And I was sitting there watching it with my wife and older son, and I think they were enjoying it, but I was really into it. I was with the film. And so all that stuff at the start, and then slowly realising that some of those characters were the main characters in the central family, and then going into the home and some of the stuff going on, and the picture of Santa on the wall that Mother thought was Christmassy, and where Santa's actually eyeing off the daughter.
Yeah.
And then the arrival of the relatives from hell.
They were a cliche of
they were caricatures.
Of
they were
annoying movie stereotypes.
I was with it. And it's funny when Max tears up his letter and throws it out the window, which causes something. I was reminded a little bit of Mary Poppins. When the father tears up the letter, goes up the chimney, and that brings Mary Poppins to the house.
Oh yeah,
that same thing of something childish that is of the child's world that the adults don't understand at best, which then gets torn up and released to the wider world, which brings something, let's say magic into the family's life. Very different outcomes for Mary Poppins versus Krampus. I like that.
I think that's when the movie starts.
Yeah, the rest is prologue. It's fine.
The opening, I was really disliking it. I wasn't really liking it. I thought this whole over-the-top writing at Christmas, that whole, they're rioting, for goodness sake. I can understand being grumpy and people, but they were rioting. I mean, it's just, I thought it was too much. And then it cuts to them watching Scrooge.
Yep.
And I thought,
saying you'll be visited by three spirits.
That's right.
So I started counting the creatures, thinking, are there going to be three?
Yeah. So I thought it was a bit obvious. So these characters were obvious. The grandma. I mean, I just knew she had a secret from the start. Her little looks.
Oh yeah. Well, you sat there thinking, Grandma, tell them what's going on.
Yeah.
Why are you not sharing this?
So I thought that was a bit obvious as well. But it did. But then it got going, and it became suddenly a light-hearted. It was quite funny and really quite imaginative. I got into it as you did after that.
And what was your favourite part?
I loved it when we first saw Krampus, and there's two actually, when he's jumping on the roofs, and the daughter's hiding under the car. I really loved that moment.
Yep.
But then I just loved the end with the elves and the masks and the way and what he looked like.
These are the bits I didn't like.
Oh wow!
So when he was jumping roof to roof, chasing the girl down, the sister down the street,
Loved it.
I did like the atmospheric part of it, but in that scene was the first in a couple of times when I was really squinting, trying to work out what's going on. I couldn't quite see. So once that got going a bit more, and she was under the truck trying to hide and so on, then I was more with it. But when I couldn't quite work out, and it happened a few times, I was thinking, oh, this could have been done a bit better. Yeah. And I actually lost patience with it in the final scene around the big volcano thing.
Oh, what was that? What was that big port
I just
thing?
thought, and I want to be very careful, I don't think we should say what happens at the end of the story.
No, you're right. Yeah, you're
but
right.
all the way through, I was thinking, how are they going to pull this off? What are they going to do at the end to make this happen? Are people actually gone forever? Is it all a dream, or what's going to go on?
I quite liked that, what they did at the end.
Yes.
I'm not going to say it, but I quite liked it. I'm not sure if you did or not.
I did.
You did? You
I
liked
thought that was a non-obvious way of pulling it off.
So did I.
Yeah.
There's some clunky devices in there though. Like I really think with the daughter going to her boyfriend's house 4 houses down or something. Why would you let your daughter go out in a blizzard?
Oh yeah, and worse than a blizzard.
Worse than a blizzard.
No signal, no.
no nothing, and she'll be all right.
Yeah.
And then they're surprised that she's not there. She's missing. And I think even some of the character reactions, even when Krampus pulls their son up the chimney,
Yes.
and he's gone, and the family are like, oh yeah, he took my son. That's it. And then suddenly there's no emotion. Your son's just been taken up a chimney and has gone. You think he's dead, and you just think, oh, you took my son. I'm going to get him. Ah.
I think you were channeling Robert De Niro just then from Analyze This. But
One of mine. All right.
But, I didn't feel that when he disappeared. I mean, I guess I was more in the story than the emotional context.
Yeah.
I agree about the daughter. I was thinking, why would they do that? I liked the gingerbread men, obviously, more than you
Oh,
did.
no, I love the gingerbread man. I love the gingerbread man.
But they cackled like the gremlins. It wouldn't surprise me if it was the same sound effect.
I really loved it. I loved it when he took a bite of the head of him and he went, hey! And then
the
got
dog
angry.
comes in, and the way he's using the creme brulee flamethrower, whatever he's using to toast the gingerbread. I liked that. I mean, I did feel references to Gremlins and Poltergeist, and I liked that. You say they didn't quite pull it off like Gremlins. I wasn't thinking in those terms. I was thinking, oh, this is like an homage, basically.
Right.
So I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the fact that I recognised it.
But I think the design of the character of Krampus, and I love that it wasn't CGI, that it was costume or puppetry.
Do you know where this was filmed?
Where was it filmed?
New Zealand.
Really?
That's the Weta group who, WETA,
Yes, yeah.
who were behind was the Hobbit films and so on.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me, yeah. I thought that was great, and that they went that way. I know some people would probably think, it's too theatre-y, but I quite love that.
Well, the whole thing was very theatre-y.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think on reflection, when you know what happens at the end of the film, that explains why it was theatre-y. I don't want to say too much.
And I loved the look of Krampus when they show him in a close-up, that really does look like St. Nicholas. He's St. Nicholas's flip side. And
evil twin.
Evil, and he does look like that. He does look like a really evil Father Christmas with a beard and everything. And that, seriously, it was quite creepy, but not creepy enough. And this is the thing. I don't know who this film was designed for. If this is a Gremlins film for sort of kids,
I don't think it's a little kids film.
But it's not a little kids film because it goes too scary. It's way too scary for them.
But there's no gore, which I like because I'm a wuss at this stuff. So it was not. I wasn't scared, but I appreciated the horror aspect of it without feeling creeped out.
But
revolted.
But I still think, for an audience, it's either got to be for you're doing it for kids, which means it's way too scary for kids. I wouldn't definitely not show my son this film. Yeah,
no.
He would just be it's just way too much.
And I wouldn't show my 12-year-old.
Right.
Yeah.
But then I think it's not scary enough for older people. I think it's a bit. It's trying to be this sort of both. And I don't think that sort of works.
I like the way it mixed the comedy and the horror. For me, that worked, and in the same way that that's what Gremlins basically is. It's a comic horror film.
I still think the comedy fell a bit flat, though.
No, I liked it. See, we obviously responded differently to it. I liked it. There's a lot I liked about it, but it was the ending, the big climax, where I kind of thought, oh, what's going on? And when everyone starts getting grabbed, like you've had this kind of slow burn of kind of who's next and how they're going to get grabbed, and suddenly everyone's going like that.
Yeah,
it's kind of like, whoa. Who was that?
That was surprising, actually.
I felt like it lost control at the end. And I wonder to what degree it's because the director was also one of the lead writers. There was no kind of sitting back and thinking about the story, a bit of discipline there, where I think the ending was good, but that sort of penultimate sequence really needed some standing back and thinking it through.
What was your favourite part, Greg?
The grandmother's backstory.
Yes.
That was like we referred to in Elf before about the Rankin Bass kind of animation for Christmas TV specials.
I'd actually forgotten about that bit, and that was
a dark version of those specials, and I really enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed that, actually.
And the fact it was almost brave to switch from this very in the moment kind of thing, where the secret's finally revealed about the grandmother and her childhood, which it was way overdue. But then it showed it in that kind of animated stop motion puppet style. And I loved it.
It was really really beautifully done.
Yeah.
That, and I thought it was a really lovely touch to bring that into it. Just a change.
Yes.
The change of scenery, because you are in their lounge room quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so it sort of changed everything up structurally.
And it was a shift, but in the context it worked. I mean, you're sitting there thinking, the grandmother's only spoken, I assume it was German or maybe Dutch, all the way through.
Then she's speaking English.
And then suddenly she's speaking beautifully, ever so slightly accented English. And, the great aunt Dorothy says, oh, so she speaks English. And we're all thinking the same thing. So why hasn't, not only why hasn't she told the story earlier, but why has she not been speaking English all the time?
I felt that moment came at a weird time because the family had just lost their son up the chimney, so everybody was sort of gathering around, and she tells the story then, and I just didn't think it was right at that specific time. I think people would be going nuts about what just happened. Tony Collette's just seen a gingerbread man scream at her
down the chimney,
and they're suddenly saying they're all quiet and they're listening to the grandmother's story about what happened.
Well, they are snowbound. Maybe they'd kind of just chilled a little.
Possibly. But I thought it came at a really lovely moment, came at a weird moment.
But I liked the courage of shifting the storytelling mode like that. And I wish I'd seen more of that at the climax, the final parts of the film. That, like, the ending was good, but the bit just before, it just lost control.
Yeah, it did.
And I would like to have seen that kind of mastery of the grandmother's story applied to that part of the film as well.
I tell you what, strangely though, I felt more Christmassy in this movie than Elf.
Yeah, I'd buy that.
Really? Strangely.
No, because it was, we said before, Elf was kind of ticking the boxes of the Christmas motifs, if you like. This took some of the motifs and subverted them. So, like, the evil shadow of Santa, for example, the chimney, which is the source of Christmas joy, becoming how you lose a child. The toys, we haven't really talked much about the creatures, but they're basically Victorian era-ish toys that are being, that are bad.
Yeah, that are coming to life and
so taking
eating
those kind of classic toys and subverting them. So the message of the film is that Christmas is special, family is special. The fact that the Toni Collette character has kept Mum's old Christmas star, I think it was, in the tree, and her sister realising, we've still got that.
Yeah, that
stuff actually is important and meaningful. And I remember speaking this time last season about Christmas films in the context of, I think it was It's a Wonderful Life, which we both gave a 10 out of 10 to. And that film was very much about Christmas reminds us of what we should be like the whole year round. Focused on each other. It's not just about us. It's about recognising something special in relationships and family. And this film is actually, at the heart of it, has got the same message. And it is a film I won't watch every Christmas by any stretch, but I can imagine going to watch again in the future year and enjoying what it has to say. And because I was delighted almost all the way through.
I think I'll watch it again, absolutely. But I think the main issue with it, again, is the characters. Even when everything was going on and people were dying, I didn't feel anything for when they did die. I didn't feel, that character, he's gone or she's gone. I didn't feel...
I did with the daughter.
The daughter I did, but I didn't with anybody else. Even the leads, though. I didn't...
Because you never saw what happened to her. I was thinking, so is she dead? Is she kind of frozen? Like, is she inside the snowman? There was kind of implication, like, when Fat Boy basically disappears up the chimney, and then suddenly there's a snowman in the yard that looks a bit like him.
Yes.
I kept waiting for that to pay off in some way. Is that them or not? What's going on there?
I love the way you said that one of the children were channeling the boy from Bad Santa.
It was the boy from Bad Santa.
It really was.
He looked like him. He didn't say much.
I felt exactly the same way when I saw the movie.
But that is a favourite film of yours, I know. And maybe we should go and see Bad Santa 2 together at the movies this Christmas.
No, actually, that does look dreadful, I must say.
I might like it then.
So, with Krampus, what are you going to give this, Greg?
I am, again, giving this a 7. I don't think it would ever be a 9 for me, or certainly a 10. Ooh. And I've really set the bar high for 10 now with It's a Wonderful Life, which is really a favourite film. I would have liked to have had an 8, but I didn't mind about, the characters not being emotionally true, but I did mind the fact that I just felt it lost control towards the end, where I thought, this is going to end in a mess, and it didn't. But I was just kind of like, what's going on here? Everyone's going all of a sudden. It just felt like the director had lost control of the timing. the mastery had vanished. But so many other things. I did love that opening sequence. I loved the grandmother's backstory done to the Christmas animation. There was so much to like about this, but it just didn't quite get there for me. But what about for you?
Look, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10.
Okay.
I think it does tick the boxes in a few ways, in terms of just the Christmas spirit, the scary elements. There's a bit of comedy in there.
There's some originality. It's a different sort of story.
It is. It really is. And so, and I really like the end as well. It was quite an interesting film because I did quite enjoy it, but then there was some just clunky moments that I just went, why is this happening? From a screenplay perspective, why would you put that bit there? These characters are just so caricature and cardboard. Yeah, so those bits grated on me. The opening grated on me. I know you loved it, but the opening grated on me a little bit. I feel like the Grinch tonight. I felt a bit like
that too. But the guy who was serving at the counter with the Santa hat on, who just looked like he was so over it.
Yeah,
there were little shots that I just loved in that sequence.
Yeah.
Did you watch the alternate ending?
No. As an alternate ending to this film?
In the extras, it's not that different. But again, I'll tell you offline because I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen the film. It's not that different, but it's a little different.
Oh, okay. I'll check that out. But again, I love the creature stuff in it. I loved Krampus. I really loved that character. I really did. So that's why I'm giving it a 6, because I think it is quite competently told.
It's one of those films where I wish they'd kind of just picked it up and shaken it a bit.
Yeah.
And made it a really good film, rather than it was a good film.
I think it needed 2 more drafts.
I don't think you're wrong.
And that concludes the Christmas special of Season 2.
We've got very Christmassy in here because off mic, is that what you say? Off mic?
Off mic.
We've had a little drink. We've had some mince pies.
Yeah, some lovely mince pies.
Really got into the spirit in more ways than one of the season. But last year, when we finished off our Christmas special, Ricardo, you will probably remember that I brought along a Christmas thing. I brought along a Christmas cracker.
You did.
For us to be able to celebrate,
right.
the spirit of the season with our listeners, our fan base, dare I say. And you will also, I'm sure, remember that it was an absolute fizzer of a cracker.
It was a fizzer of a cracker.
So in what I hope will become an annual tradition, I have another cracker. It's a brilliant, shiny red colour with Christmas baubles all over it.
Is this going to snap louder, is it?
That's the hope. I have no idea. There's something quite weighty inside it, whatever it is.
Okay, let's have a look there.
Get your little...
It's going to blow up.
I was going to bring those little exploding streamer things. I thought we'll give someone a heart attack or they'll go off the road or something. So anyone listening, there may or may not be a loud noise any moment here. But let's give it a go. You ready?
But let's give it a go. Okay, and 1, 2, 3.
Hey!
That was louder.
I got a mini pack of playing cards.
There we go.
Did you get a joke?
No, did I get a joke? No, I didn't. Is there a joke?
That is really sad. Okay, no hat or anything. Anyway,
actually,
sorry.
There we are.
It's a joke.
There's a joke.
Yay!
Okay, so I've got this joke here.
Go on.
Okay, question. Why is Santa so good at karate?
I have no idea.
Because he has a black belt.
I had such hopes for that joke.
It's a Christmas.
Well, look, there's one you can tell at the office party or to the family.
And you're meant to laugh.
They'll never have heard it before. There's probably a good reason why they haven't, but never mind.
So, look, wishing everybody
Absolutely.
a very safe and Merry Christmas.
It's been a strange year, and we hope you cap it off with a wonderful celebration.
Absolutely, and just keep listening to the podcast.
Absolutely.
And
to make our Christmas.
Tell people about it. Review it. It all really helps.
We hope you do. Yeah.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.